Greetings, yogis. My name is Daniel. This is Daniel Lee Yoga, and thank you for joining me for practice today. Today is Wednesday, and we have our level 1 class today. It will be 60 minutes Vinyasa based, and this week we've been changing things up a little bit, doing more of a workshop series. So, yesterday for our fundamental class, we really took our time to break down the movement of what's called Vinyasa, the actual sequence of moving through the 3 or 4 different poses involved in doing a Vinyasa. And today, what we will focus on in a Vinyasa based class are our sun salutations. There's many different ways that sun salutations can be incorporated into class, and I will focus on 2 different ways, the A version and the B version, more of the traditional sense of how they are cued. The sun salutations are a series of poses, so they can be anywhere, I think, between like 8 and 13, depending on how you do the math. But they can always be modified to the instructor's liking or to the student's liking. So that's what will be our focus today. So again, it will be not a very traditional class. This will be a little more workshop based. So we're going to break things down and spend more time along the way. But since our sun salutations are a series, it will be more movement based. So if you were kind of missing that from class yesterday, we'll definitely be moving more today. And we'll have the opportunity to incorporate what we learned yesterday in our Vinyasa movement into our series here. So, as far as props for today, if you have a couple blocks, great. We'll use those right now at the beginning. So keep those up at the top of your mat within reach. If you don't have blocks, or also have a blanket nearby, we'll get started in a pose to begin class that either uses the blocks or it uses a blanket or a towel. So I'll show you a couple different ways of coming into the pose. So you may prefer the blocks, you may prefer the towel. This is more of a restorative pose. It's a fish pose, is the name, supported fish pose. So you may try both options and see which one works for you. It may depend on the day what you prefer, but I will go through 2 different ways of coming into your fish pose. So starting with the blanket, so I just have like a normal beach towel or bathroom towel here. What we want to do is fold this up into a long, thin shape. So the length you want to be about the length of the short end of the towel. That should be plenty. We really want it to rest on our back. So in our supported fish pose, we'll be resting on our back, where the blanket or the blocks will be supporting us. So if you're using your towel, I am going to fold mine in half a couple times with the short end, and Coney will demonstrate to me, help show how this works. Thank you, Coney. So I've folded mine 3 or 4 times to have it nice, long and thin, about the width of the short end of the towel. So make sure it's nice and smooth and place it right in the center of your mat here. Again, this is what you'll be lying your spine on. So have a little bit of space up at the top where the back of your head is going to rest off of the towel and come onto your back. Coney will make sure I line this up right. Thank you. How's that look, Coney? Does it look good? All right. So, resting your spine on the towel. Back of your head is not on the towel, it's on the mat or the ground itself. Now start with your knees bent, and then press down through your feet, lift your hips up just like a 1/2 inch so that you can tuck and draw your tailbone down towards your heels to allow more of the length of your spine. That kind of reduces a little bit of the arch in your low back. The idea here is to have as much of your spine on the towel here. Now once you're nice and settled there, as far as your legs, you can keep your knees bent if you'd like, or if you want to extend them out, like in your Shavasana, you can have your legs nice and long, but the knees and the feet fall out to the side. Arms either way will be down to the sides and palms face up. So you can start to just make little adjustments to get yourself nice and comfortable. This is definitely a restorative pose, so you want to make sure that you are nice and comfortable aligned here for a longer duration of time. So that is the first way with the towel. Stay there if you're comfortable there. Otherwise, if you want to try with the blocks, simple or a very similar setup, we're just using the blocks instead. So you can place your towel off to the side. What you'll do with your two blocks, if you're using like boxes or something different, you just need to make sure that they're nice and sturdy and can support you. Now, as far as the different heights, it will depend on the yogi as far as what works for you, depending on the length of your deck and how things are proportioned. You'll basically start by placing both blocks up at the top, maybe 6 to 8 inches apart. So I'm going to start with the one block on its medium height, closer to the center, and the block, another block will be resting the back of my head. I'm placing that on the lowest end. So coming into it the same way, we'll gently rest, and what you're going for with this, the block closest to you, is you want your shoulder blades, the bony protrusions coming out of your back, to rest on the block here. So that's what I'm going for. And once you have that, then you rest the back of the head on your other block. Now for me, I already know that I want to bring this block up to its middle height, so I'm going to adjust. So I have both blocks on their middle height. That might work for you. You might make this one block on its medium or lowest height. Just do what works for you. Obviously, this allows a little bit more of a back bend than the towel version, so this may be a little more intense. But again, just kind of settle around, maybe make some minor adjustments. Make sure the block, again, is resting on the shoulder blades, not your low back, not your neck, but the actual shoulder blades. Same thing for your knees, or for your feet. Start with bending your knees, and just press and lift your hips up just an inch so you can draw your tailbone down towards your heels. You can keep your knees bent, or if you want to extend your legs out long, let your knees and your feet just gently fall off to the side. Arms are down to the sides, palms face up. Just let your shoulders open. Let your body have a nice natural curve in your back. And we'll start to settle into our supported fish pose. So you're either on your blocks or you're on your towel. We'll be here for a minute or two. You always have the option to start to close your gaze or just keep your gaze soft. Beginning to transition in to your practice, allowing yourself to let go of whatever had your attention earlier in the day, and forgetting about anything you have planned for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. Allow yourself to settle in. You can do that by focusing on your breath, noticing how it comes in through your body, either through your nose or your mouth, and then following your breath as it exits your body, through your mouth, through your nose. Perhaps taking note of the difference between your inhales and your exhales. Maybe one's a little bit longer than the other. For now, just let your breath be natural. Just take slow, long, deep breaths. Just take 3 more deep breaths. All right, now gently start to blink your eyes open. Bend your knees, place the bottoms of your feet on the mat if they're not there already. And then we'll come off our blocks or our towel very gently. So either way, gently start to roll onto your side to support yourself. So you can easily come onto your side with your knees bent. Stay for a moment on your side here. And then try to reach around and remove either your towel or your block. Just place them off to the side, off your mat. And before we come up, let's roll back onto our backs. This time without the support. Have your legs long, arms down to the sides, palms face up. And just stay here for a couple breaths and notice the difference. How does your spine feel compared to when it was supported just a moment ago to now? Might feel little differences. Chest might feel a little bit open. Just take one more deep breath. Alright, let's start to invite a little bit more movement into the body. So gently bend your knees, place your feet on the mat. You can lift your hips up just a centimeter and try to draw your tailbone down to your heels. Release the hips back down on the mat. Now hug the knees into your chest. Wrap your hands around your shins. Keep your knees and your feet together. Let's gently rock from side to side, massaging that low back. Just keep gently rocking from side to side. Let's come back to stillness in the center. Now keep hugging the right knee into your chest. Let's extend, straighten the left leg straight out. Flexing both feet. You have the option with that left leg to either release the heel to the mat or keep the heel hovered an inch or two. Either way, you're flexing both feet so they draw back towards the face. And try to spin the inner left thigh in and down towards the mat. That keeps the knee facing up towards the sky. And we're drawing the right knee into our chest as we extend that left heel away from the body. Try to draw the navel in and down, especially if that ankle is hovering above the ground. One more breath here. And now we'll switch. So draw the left knee into your chest, extend and straighten the right leg straight out. Flexing both feet, same options before. You can either release the right heel to the mat, or if you want to hover an inch or two, either way, same actions. Flexing both feet so the toes come back towards your face, spinning the inner right thigh in and down to keep the knee facing up towards the sky. Drawing the left knee in towards your chest as you extend the right heel away from your body. Keep drawing the navel in and down to reduce the arch in your low back. Stay for one more breath. And gently just draw your knee back into your chest. Extend and straighten the left leg straight out again. And we'll start to move on our breath. So on your inhale, draw the left knee in. Extend the right leg out as you switch. And then exhale, switch it up. Right knee in, left leg forward. So keep going back and forth on your breath here. Drawing one knee in on your inhale. And then draw the opposite knee in on your exhale. So you might be moving a little bit slower, a little bit faster than me. Again, you can keep the heel hovered, or if you want to release the heel when you extend for a moment. Just move on your breath at your pace. Let's do one more each side. Let's draw both knees back into your chest. Keep the knees bent, release the bottoms of the feet onto the mat. We'll start to loosen up the hips a little bit, so keeping the right foot planted, draw the left knee into your chest. Left palm on top of that left knee, right palm on the right hip. And let's gently start to make some circles with that left knee. Just making some gentle circles. Starting to loosen up our joints here. And then begin to slow, and let's move in the opposite direction. Keep making circles. That right hand is there to keep that right hip rooted as you make your circles. And let's come back to stillness and switch. So release the left foot down. Draw the right knee in, right palm to the right knee, left palm to that left hip, and start in your first direction. Make your circles. Again, try to keep that left hip rooted. You can use that hand to help. If you feel like it's popping up, just try to reduce the diameter of your circles. And let's slow it down and move in the opposite direction in your circles. Imagine yourself drawing that circle on the ceiling. And let's come back to center, hugging both knees into our chest. Then we'll come up into a tabletop. So if you're one that likes to roll up and down your spines, you can hold on back behind your thighs and just gently roll up and down your spine a couple times, keeping your chin slightly tucked. You can do that and cross your legs, arms come forward and come into your tabletop that way. Or if you want, just let your legs fall off to the side and press yourself up. So coming into your tabletop, whatever way works for you. Arms are shoulder width distance with the wrists directly below the shoulders. Knees are below the hips, tops of the feet to the mat. Gently hug that navel in and up. Create a nice long spine. Slight tuck of the chin gazes up towards the top of your mat. Let's add some cow cats. So inhale as we drop the navel, tailbone lifts, heart comes forward, look up. Exhale, round your back. Shoulders separate, head hangs heavy, cat pose. Reversing that, back into your cow pose, navel drops, heart lifts, look up. And exhale, rounding your back into your cat pose. Do 2 more on your breath. Again, opportunity to move, to connect your breath and your movement here. Just do 1 more each way. And after you finish that, meet me back in a nice neutral spine, shoulders over wrists, spine nice and long. From here, draw your tailbone back, extend out through the crown of your head, nice long spine. Let's curl the toes under, lift the knees up off the mat, and then lift your hips up and back, come into your downward facing dog. So send the hips back and up. You can adjust your hands or your feet if you need to. And this is our first downward facing dog, so let's take our dog for a walk. You can gently bend one knee, bend the other. Maybe you lift one heel and lift the other. You can come in a 3-legged dog if you like, lifting one leg, lifting the other. Just move and groove for a couple breaths here, loosening anything out in your body. Just do that for a couple more breaths. And come back to stillness in your down dog. Let's inhale as we gaze forward. Bend the knees. Exhale, walk or step to the top of the mat. Have your feet hips width distance. Stay in your forward fold. Knees can have a slight bend if you need to. Let your head and your arms hang heavy, and then grab opposite elbows. Come into ragdoll pose. If you like, you can gently sway from side to side. Now let's switch whichever elbow's on top. Keep swaying from side to side. You're still gently pressing down through the base of each foot, all sides equally.
keeping yourself nice and stable. Let's come back to center, release the arms, press down through the feet, and we'll start to roll up the spine, coming up to standing, one vertebrae at a time. So take your time here. Head and neck are the last thing to arrive. Start to stack one vertebrae on a time as you gently roll up to standing.
All right, once you're standing, let's roll those shoulders up and back a couple times, and then opposite way back and forward. Okay, so as I mentioned in the beginning of class, what we'll be focusing on is our sun salutations. So our sun salutations, or in Sanskrit, they're called Surya Namaskar. They can be A, B, C, they can be so many different variations. We'll be focusing on the two core salutations that most other modifications come from. And that's our sun salutation A and our sun salutation B. So there's different poses that are involved in these sequences, and we'll go through them a little bit slower. And then as we get more comfortable, we'll ramp up, pick up the pace a little bit. So it'll be fun to kind of learn. Let's start at the top of your mat. And if you've been taking any yoga class, you'll probably be very familiar, and these might start to make sense as we go on. But we'll take a little more time breaking down the pose, explaining more why we move from from one pose to the next. So come to the top of your mat, feet or hips width distance, arms down to the sides, palms face forward. Try to draw your tailbone down as you lift your frontal hip points up, soften your shoulders away from your ears. Our starting pose for generally most sun salutations is our mountain pose or Tadasana. That's what we're in right now. So you can envision yourself as a mountain, nice and stable, rooted to the mat, unable to sway because you're rooted and nice and structured here. Now take a nice deep inhale and exhale. The next pose we'll move into is our Urdhva Hastasana. So press down through your feet, keep your body just as it is, and inhale as you raise the arms out to the side and up overhead. Now keep your arms up overhead. Usually when you raise your arms up, your shoulders come with you, come closer to the ears. So try and drop your shoulders down away from your ears. That creates more space. Now, palms should turn in towards each other. That allows for more external rotation and again, more space in the shoulder area. This is our second pose here, our Urdhva Hastasana. Now, next pose is our forward facing, or I'm sorry, our standing forward fold. So inhale as you create length in the spine, and then exhale, start to hinge forward and let your body forward fold. At the hips, your knees can slightly bend, letting your arms and your head hang heavy here. So again, your knees can bend if you'd like. You can rest your chest on your thighs. And the fingertips can either come onto the mat, palms can come to the mat, or if you're up a little bit higher, your hands can rest on your shins or your thighs. The idea is to have a slight tuck of the chin and just let everything hang nice and heavy, loosening up the low back. This is our Uttanasana, our forward fold. Now our next pose will be our halfway forward fold. So place your hands on your shins, press down through your feet, and inhale, lift up halfway, creating a nice long spine parallel with the mat here. Your chin is still slightly tucked, gaze is up past your mat. You're pressing down through all four sides of your feet, and you're spinning the inner thighs in and back. Your knees can start bent, but maybe over time you start to straighten your legs. And you're extending through all sides of the torso, still softening your shoulders down away from your ears. Ardha Uttanasana, halfway forward fold. Now let's come back into our forward fold, so our knees bend. At the hips, come back into your forward fold. So we've been here before in our Uttanasana. Feet are still hips width distance. You're letting your head and your neck be nice and long. Now from here, we'll press down through our feet
we'll come back up to standing. Your arms can either come out or forward and up. So press down through the feet and inhale as you raise the arms out and up overhead or forward and up overhead. Back into your Urdhva Hastasana. We were here before. So again, palms face each other. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. Draw the tailbone down. Lift those frontal hip points up. And then release your hands to the center of your chest and down to the sides, arms face forward, back into your mountain pose. So that completes a one half of a Sun Salutation A series. The basis that will be for the full Sun A series. So we'll build off of that. We'll start to pick up the pace for poses that we're more familiar with. So make sure you're still at the top of your mat with your feet hips width distance, arms down to the sides. To begin by inhaling as you bring your arms up overhead, again, palms face each other, soften those shoulders down. And exhale as you hinge forward into your forward fold, knees can slightly bent, again, fingers or palms to the mat or to your shins or thighs. Place your hands to your shins, now lift up halfway, nice long spine, parallel to the mat here. And then rebend your knees, come back into your forward fold. This time stay low. You'll plant your palms on the mat. So bend your knees as much as you need to plant both hands on the mat. Fingers forward, wrists back, arms or shoulder width distance, just like in your tabletop pose. Once your hands are rooted, step your right foot back, step your left foot back. Come into your plank pose. In your plank pose, your shoulders are over your wrists. Shoulder blades are nice and wide and drawing down your back. You always have the option here, a modification, dropping your knees down. Either way, you're still keeping your shoulders over your wrists, drawing the tailbone down towards your heels in your plank pose. Now, drop your knees down, everyone. We'll shift the torso forward, bend the elbows back, and lower all the way to the mat. This starts our Vinyasa phase of our Sun Salutation. So if you were in class yesterday and you went through the grueling Vinyasa practice, this will continue through it. So we lower all the way to the mat. We uncurl our toes so the tops of the feet come to the mat, and we'll come into our back bend. So drawing the elbows in, press the hands down, press the tops of the feet down. Inhale as you send your heart forward, chest forward, maybe you lift up off the mat. So you keep the low ribs on the mat, draw the heart forward, gaze is forward of the mat. Drawing the elbows in towards each other, releasing the tailbone down. Now gently release the forehead back down to the mat. You'll curl the toes back under, keeping the knees down, press your hands into the mat, and press yourself back up, shoulders over wrists. We're in our knees down plank pose. With the toes still curled under, we'll press our heels back, lift our knees off the ground, lift our hips up and back, come into our downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And in our down dog, we'll hold for a couple breaths here. In your down dog, press your chest back toward your thighs, hug your triceps in, press down to the base of each finger and each thumb. Now inhale as you gaze forward, bend the knees, exhale, walk or step to the top of the mat. Feet or hips width distance, and we inhale as we lift halfway, hands to the shins, nice flat back, parallel spine. We've been here before. Then we'll slightly bend the knees and hinge forward into our forward fold. Coming back up to standing now, press down through your feet. Arms come out or forward and up, overhead, standing up, back into your Urdhva Hastasana, arms overhead, palms face each other, softening the shoulders down. And then bring the hands down through center and arms down to the sides, back into your mountain pose. So that completes one full Sun A series. So let's repeat that and we'll pick up the pace a little bit. So palms down to the sides, arms slightly externally rotated with the palms facing forward. Try to broaden the collarbones, drawing the shoulders down your back. Draw the tailbone down, hug the navel in.
Chin is parallel with the mat. Take a nice deep inhale and exhale. So on the breath, let's move. Inhale, bring the arms up overhead, palms face each other. Exhale, hinge forward into your forward fold. Knees can have a slight bend. Inhale, halfway lift, hands to the shins, nice flat back. Maybe start to straighten those legs. And then rebend, forward fold. Plant both palms on the mat. Step your right foot back, step your left foot back into your plank pose. Dropping your knees down, shifting forward, bend the elbows lower all the way to the mat. This starts our Vinyasa phase. Now tops of the feet to the mat. And inhale, lift your head up, chest up into your baby cobra. Releasing the tailbone down, drawing the elbows in. Exhale as you gently release the forehead back down. Curl the toes back under. Press yourself back up into your knees down plank pose. And then lift the hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Stay for a couple breaths in your down dog. You can always drop down to your knees if you need a little more rest here. Back into your knees down plank pose or tabletop. Otherwise, stay in your down dog for 2 more breaths. Hugging those triceps in. Pressing the chest back towards the thighs. Stay for 1 more breath. Now inhale as you gaze forward. Bend the knees. Exhale, walk or step to the top of the mat. Feet hips width distance. Inhale, lift up halfway. Hands to the shins. Nice flat back. And exhale, hinge forward, forward fold. Coming back up to standing, press down through your feet. Inhale, lift arms out and up overhead. Urdhva Hastasana, palms face each other. And exhale, hands down through center and down to the sides. Take a breath here. That completes another of our Sun A series. We'll repeat that 1 more time and then we'll move on to our Sun B series. So make sure you're still at the top of your mat. Feet are hips width distance, heels behind the center toes. Feet should be nice and parallel. Arms down to the sides, palms face forward. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. On your inhale, raise the arms up overhead, palms face each other, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, hinge forward, Uttanasana. Lift halfway, Ardha Uttanasana, nice long spine. And exhale, forward fold. Step your right foot back, step your left foot back into your plank pose. Drop your knees down, shift forward, bend the elbows lower all the way to the mat. Tops of the feet to the mat. Inhale, lift up into your back bend. Exhale, release the forehead down, curl the toes under. Press yourself into your modified plank pose, knees down. And then lift the hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Stay for a couple breaths in your down dog. Keep spinning the inner thighs in and back. Heels are directly behind the center toes. Pressing down to the base of each finger and each palm. Let's inhale as you gaze forward. And bend the knees. Exhale, walk or step to the top of the mat. Feet are hips width distance. Inhale, lift halfway, hands to the shins, nice flat back. And exhale, forward fold. Press down through your feet. Inhale, raise the arms out and up overhead, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, hands down through center and down to the sides. All right, so did a bunch of Sun A series, Surya Namaskar. So that is really just a great way to warm your body up, warm up a lot of the muscles throughout your entire body, and prepare yourself for the rest of class. We typically do those at the beginning of class as a way to prep ourselves for the rest of class. So moving into our Sun B series here is a little more advanced, but you should be able to follow right along. Okay, come back to the top of your mat. But this time, let's bring our big toes to touch and our heels slightly separated. There's many different ways to modify. You can keep your legs hips width distance if you'd like. I'm just going to cue the Sun B salutation here with our feet together. So this is still our mountain pose. We just have our feet together. So arms down to the sides, palms face forward. Just notice how this may feel a little different from having your feet hips width distance. You might feel like you're swaying from side to side a little bit more. Really, this can be a little less stable since you're bringing your feet together, but you can imagine when your legs are together like this, they become one solid mass together. So it might help you envision yourself as just one unit here, one leg, and you're really pressing down still through the base of each foot, all sides of the feet. Same thing, draw your tailbone down as you lift your frontal hip points up, broaden the collarbones, send the shoulder blades down your back. Chin is parallel with the mat. Take a nice deep inhale and exhale. All right, first position for our Sun B salutation is to bend your knees, send your hips back, arms come forward, chair pose. Now in your chair pose, arms are nice and long, palms are still facing each other. Try to get your biceps up next to your ears. Now gaze down and look at your toes. Make sure you can see your toes. If your knees are in the way, try to shift your hips back more. Now shift more weight into the heels, so much so that you can bring your toes off the mat. Release your toes back down. Take a nice deep inhale. And then exhale as you forward fold. We've been here before. Our feet are just together. So in your forward fold, same options. Fingertips or palms to the mat, or to the shins, or to the thighs. Idea is to let the head hang nice and heavy. Now let's place the hands to the shins. Inhale, lift up halfway, or Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift. Again, you can maybe start to straighten the legs here, but really extend through all sides of the torso, softening the shoulders away from the ears. Now gently bend the knees and exhale, come back into your forward fold, planting both palms down, just as we've done before. So we'll step the right foot back. We'll step the left foot back into our plank pose, dropping the knees down, shifting the torso forward as you bend the elbows back, lower all the way to the mat, forehead to the mat. Tops of the feet come to the mat. Inhale, lift up into your back bend, just like in our other series. So sending the heart and the chest forward, drawing the tailbone back. And then exhale, release your forehead down to the mat, curling the toes under, lifting your hips up, or lift your chest up into your plank pose with your knees down, and then lift your hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Now, from our down dog, we'll move from here. So make sure your feet are still hips width distance, heels pressing back. We'll lift the right leg up to hip height without opening your hips. So your hips are still squared to the mat. You're just lifting your right leg up, flexing the right toes so that the knee still faces down towards the mat. Toes and the knee face down. Now, gaze forward, bend the knee, right knee into your chest, shift your torso forward, shoulders over wrists, and step the right foot to the top of the mat. If it doesn't make it there in one step, you can take a couple, don't worry. We're here in our high lunge. Our right knee is over our right ankle, right foot is on the right side of the mat, left foot is on the left side of the mat. Press down through your feet. Inhale, raise the arms forward and up into your high lunge. In your high lunge, try to draw your tailbone down. Lift those frontal hip points up. Send the right hip back as you draw the left hip forward. With the arms overhead, palms face each other. Now exhale as you hinge forward, release the arms back down to the mat, palms down, shoulder width distance. Send the right foot to meet the back foot. We'll vinyasa through. So drop the knees down, shift forward, bend the elbows, lower all the way to the mat. Tops of the feet to the mat. Press your feet down, inhale, lift head up, chest up, baby cobra. And exhale, forward fold. Curling the toes under, press up through your plank pose, knees down. And then lift your hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Now we move to the other side. So we'll lift the left leg up to hip height, flexing the toes. Toes and the knees face down towards the mat, keeping the pelvis nice and square. Now bend the left knee into your chest as you shift forward, shoulders over wrists. Step the left foot up to the top of the mat. If it doesn't make it there in the first try, again, just take a couple steps. Have your left knee over the left ankle, and left foot on the left side of the mat, right foot on the right side. They're in their own lanes. Now press down through your feet and inhale as you lift the arms forward and up, overhead. Settle in as you press your right heel back, starting to straighten that back leg. Draw the tailbone down, lift those frontal hip points up. Palms face each other, arms overhead. Now exhale as you hinge forward, bring the palms forward and down to the mat, shoulder width distance. Step the left foot to meet the right foot, back in your plank pose. We'll vinyasa through, dropping your knees down, shift forward, bend the elbows, lower all the way to the mat. Tops of the feet to the mat, press down, inhale, lift up into your back bend. Draw the tailbone down, ankles in towards each other. Exhale, forward fold, or release the forehead down. Curling the toes under, press yourself up through plank pose with your knees down. And then lift the hips up and back into your downward facing dog. We'll stay in our down dog for 3 or 4 breaths here. Keep hugging those triceps in, press the chest back towards the thighs. Try to draw the heels down and towards the mat. Maybe start to straighten your legs a little bit more if you can. Staying for 1 more breath. And now inhale as you gaze forward. Bend the knees, exhale, walk or step to the top of the mat. Bring your big toes to touch, heels separate, and inhale, lift up halfway, hands to the shins, nice long spine. And then exhale, hinge forward into your forward fold. Coming back into your chair pose, so bend the knees, hips back, arms come forward, palms face each other, arms are nice and long, biceps next to the ears. And then straighten your legs, arms or hands down through center, arms down to the sides. Back in your mountain pose with your feet together. So take a couple breaths here. That completes our Sun B series, so our Sun Salutation B. So we'll repeat that 1 more time. We'll just bring it up to speed. 1 breath, 1 movement here. So make sure you're still at the top of the mat. Big toes touch, heels slightly separated, arms down to the sides. Draw the tailbone down, frontal hip points raised up. Take a nice deep inhale and exhale. Now on the breath, inhale as you bend the knees, send the hips back, arms come forward. Exhale, hinge forward into your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, nice long spine. And exhale, forward fold, plant your palms, step back into your plank pose. Drop your knees, shift forward, bend the elbows as you exhale and lower all the way to the mat. Tops of the feet to the mat. Inhale, lift up into your back bend, baby cobra. Send the heart forward. Exhale as you release the forehead back down. Curl the toes under. Inhale into your plank pose with your knees down. And then exhale, lift your hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Inhale, lift the right leg up and back to hip height, flexing the toes, knee faces down. Exhale, draw the right knee into your chest, step it up towards the top of the mat. Press down through your feet. Inhale, lift the arms up overhead, palms face each other. Release that tailbone down. Then exhale, hinge forward, release the palms down to either side of that foot. Step the right foot back into your plank pose, knees down. Exhale as you shift forward, bend the elbows, lower all the way to the mat. Top to the feet to the mat. Inhale, lift your head up, chest up, baby cobra. Exhale, release the forehead back down. Curl the toes under. Inhale, lift up into your plank pose, knees down. And then exhale, lift the hips up and back into your down dog. Other side, inhale, lift your left leg up, flex the left toes. Bend the left knee into your chest, step the left foot to the top of the mat. Inhale as you lift the arms up overhead, palms face each other. And then exhale, hinge forward, release the palms back down to the mat. Step the left foot back, drop the knees down. Exhale as you shift forward and lower all the way to the mat. Tops of the feet to the mat. Inhale, lift up into your back bend. Exhale, release the forehead down. Curl the toes under. Inhale, lift up into your plank pose, knees down. And then exhale, lift the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Stay here for 3 to 4 breaths. Keep pressing your chest back towards your thighs. Spinning the inner thighs in and up.
towards the sky. Hugging the triceps in, staying for one more breath. And now inhale as you gaze forward. Bend the knees, exhale, walker step to the top of the mat. Big toes touch, heels separate. Inhale, lift up, halfway lift, nice long spine. Exhale, forward fold into your Uttanasana. Press down through your feet, back into your chair pose, hips back, knees bent, arms forward. And then straighten the legs, arms down through center and down through the sides. All right, that completes our sun bee salutation there. So that goes over just a couple of different sun salutations, so you may be familiar with them if you have been practicing before. There's lots of different ways to vary them. They're taught so many different ways. But just wanted to introduce you to them just a little bit slower. So if you wanted them broken down, if you wanted to re-review them, you now have an option. You can always rewatch this video if you'd like. Okay, let's start to cool down. So come down to a seat on your mat. Let's have your legs extended out in front of you. You can always sit up on something if you'd like. Actually, let's come into a straddle splits here. So start with your legs hips width distance, and then you extend your legs out wide here. Try to keep the feet flexed. Now, if you feel like you're falling back, I know I always feel like I fall back a little bit. So I'm going to place a blanket or a towel or a block underneath my sit bone so that I can sit up on top of that. That allows me to sit up a little bit straighter and a little more comfortable this way without feeling like I'm falling back. Now have your feet nice and flexed and try and spin these inner thighs in and down to keep the knees and the toes facing up towards the sky. So if you feel like your knees and your feet are falling out too wide, just try and bring your legs in a little bit closer. So go to your capacity while you can still have the knees and the toes facing up. Now, if it's enough for you to stay right here, you can stay right here. If you want to add a forward fold, inhale as you lift the arms up overhead, palms face each other. Keep the nice long spine. Exhale as you hinge forward over your hips. You can send your heart down towards the mat, releasing the arms down if you'd like. But again, try and keep a nice long spine, so avoid rounding too much. You can still have a slight tuck of the chin. Just make sure your feet stay flexed and your knees still face up towards the sky. Let's just stay for 3 or 4 breaths here in our forward fold. To be honest, this is one of my least favorite poses, so it's always good to practice what's not your favorite. You know, lean into your weaknesses sometimes, so that's how you learn and that's how you get better. Let's stay for 2 more long, deep breaths here. One more deep breath. And let's start to walk our hands back in. Lift your torso back up. Now use your hands to bring your legs back into hips width distance and then bend your knees. Come up off your block or your blanket if you were using it and just place that off to the side. Now with your knees bent, send your hips up closer to your heels and we'll gently roll onto our backs. You can hold onto your shins or your thighs, or you can let your arms hover as you gently roll onto your back. Just take your time. Once you're on your back with your knees bent, bring your feet back underneath your knees. So your ankles should be directly underneath your knees. Feet and knees are hips width distance. Sometimes you can measure by your arms. The fingertips can graze the backs of your heels. But everyone's arms and legs are different lengths, so sometimes it's a little different. Now place your arms down to the sides. We'll add a back bend here, a bridge pose. So press down through your feet, and on your inhale, lift your hips up, pelvis up, chest up into your bridge pose. Keep pressing your feet down into the mat. Spin the inner thighs in and down. to keep the knees hips-width distance. The knees always want to fall out, so try to keep them hips-width distance. Send your chin away from your chest and your chest towards your chin. Maybe you can lift up a little bit more. Keep gently pressing the arms into the mat. Lift a little bit higher. One more breath. And gently lower from the top of your spine, middle, low back, last to arrive. We'll have the option to repeat that one more time. If you're one that likes to clasp your fingers underneath your back in your bridge pose, you'll have that option. Otherwise, you can repeat just as we did before. So, press your feet down into the mat, arms down to the sides to start. And on your inhale, lift your hips up, pelvis up, chest up into your bridge pose. So again, stay here. If you'd like, roll the triceps under and clasp the fingers underneath your back. With the fingers clasped, bring your wrist to touch. Extend and straighten the arms and see if you can get your pinky side edge of your arms to the mat. Keep lifting up as you spin those inner thighs in and down, wherever you are, sending your chest up towards the sky. Let's stay here for 2 more deep breaths. 1 more breath. And gently release the arms out to the side. Release the shoulders out. Start to lower from the top of your spine, middle, and then low back is the last to arrive. All right, let's bring the knees into touch. Separate the feet out wide. And let's let the knees rock from side to side. This is a moving, constructive rest pose here, and it allows us to ease any last little bit of tension that may be in our low backs. All right, let's come back to stillness. Heel toe your feet back to hips width distance. Separate your knees to hips width. And then bring your knees and your shins parallel with the mat. Feet are flexed. Extend your arms out to a T or a field goal shape. Arms shoulder width height, palms face up. And then we'll add a spinal twist. So let your knees fall off to the left side. Keeping your knees at least up at hip height. Now with your knees falling off to the left side, your right shoulder may have popped up. So try to reroute that right shoulder back down on the mat. If your knees pop up because of that, that's fine. You can always place a block underneath them or towel if you'd like, or just let them hover. I just rather you have your right shoulder rooted. And now last option is to turn your neck to look over those right fingertips, or full spinal twist here. I'll stay here for 3 breaths. One more breath. All right, let's turn the gaze back to center. Lift the knees back up to center. Release your feet down to the mat for a moment. Recenter your hips. Bring your shins back up parallel with the mat, and then let your knees fall off to the other side. Let them fall off to the right side this time. Keeping your arms still at shoulder height. Again, that left shoulder may have popped up. See if you can reroute that left shoulder back down on the mat. And your knees should be at least up at hip height. You don't want them any lower, or that might stress out your low back a little too much. Try and have them at least up at hip height. Palms face up. Last option, turn your neck to look over those left fingertips. Stay for a couple deep breaths here. One more deep breath. Bring your gaze back up to center. Knees back up to center. Release your feet back down on the mat. Recenter your hips if you need. Just draw the knees back into your chest. Give them a gentle squeeze. And then
have the knees part out to the sides, and then bring the bottoms of your feet to face up towards the sky. We'll come into happy baby pose. Try to keep your low back on the mat, and the options for your arms. Your arms can either grab the outsides of your thighs, the outsides of your calves, or if they grab the outsides of your feet, have the elbows to the insides of your knees. Again, keep your low back on the mat, and then draw your feet and your knees down closer to the mat. Try to have your ankles over your knees, drawing down. You can stay here, or if you'd like to gently rock from side to side, you can do that. Happy baby pose. And let's come back to center. Release the clasps of your feet or your legs. Hug the knees back into your chest. Wrap your hands around your shins. Lift your forehead up so your shoulders and the back of your head come off the mat. Come into a nice egg shape. We're squeezing everything in together as much as we can. So squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And exhale, we'll release. Extend the legs long. Extend the arms overhead. Point the toes and extend the fingertips away from your body. And one last full body stretch here. So stretch everything. Stretch, stretch, stretch. And exhale, release. So arms come down to the sides, palms face up. Legs long, let the knees and the feet fall out to the side. Settle into your final pose of practice today, Shavasana. Let this pose be a time to release. Releasing any last little bit of tension you may have in your body. You always have the option to soften your gaze or close your eyes completely as you just allow yourself to exist here on the mat. The last thing to release would be your breath. Just let it be. Your job is done now. It's time to let gravity do the work. Just let your body be heavy and allow it to melt into the mat. And begin to bring some awareness back into your body. You can wiggle your fingers and your toes. Rotate your wrists and your ankles. Switch directions in those rotations. And come back to stillness for one last breath here on your back. And now gently begin to bend your knees into your chest as you roll over to one side of your body. Coming onto your side, let your top arm rest on your bottom arm, your top knee rest on your bottom knee. Just stay for a moment here on your side. And now keeping your eyes softened or your gaze closed, use your top arm to press yourself up into a comfortable cross-legged seated position to complete your practice today. In your comfortable cross-legged seat, you can rest your palms on top of your knees. Palms can face up, or bring your hands into the center of your chest. Let's all take a nice deep inhale in together. Through the mouth, exhale. Thank you for joining me in your practice today. The light and love in me acknowledges and honors the light and love in each one of you. Thank you. Peace. All right. Thank you all so much for joining class today and participating in this little different class, a little more of a workshop series. Had fun going over the different sun salutations A and B. If you have any questions, you can always let me know. You can leave a comment in the chat or at the or in the comments for the video under the description. In the description always is more info to contact me if you'd like, either through Instagram or my email address or whatnot. More of that info should be there. And yeah, now I feel like you should be a more informed yogi. So you'll definitely see the sequences in any class that you take, especially if they're Vinyasa based classes. So you now have more knowledge to take with you. So I appreciate you joining me. Next class will be Friday. We will be a level 2 class, and we'll be putting everything together that we've been learning this week. So our Vinyasa that we learned Tuesday and our sun salutations that we learned today. So it should be a nice fun class to put everything together. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Again, my name is Daniel. I'll see you next time in class. Thank you and peace.